I'm somewhat overcome by this. I started here in 1952 in July 1, and we have brought back about 25 former employees who left in good grace. Some retired and some changed careers. And when we hit our 35th, we felt we better do it now because the 50th, some of those older people will be changing careers once again. And I wanted them here today because, as I told them in the letter of invitation, I'm having a difficult time keeping these youngsters in line. We keep trying to tell them how it used to be, and they don't believe that. In 1959, we buried a time capsule, and that's one of the highlights of today. We exhumed it, and we are going to open it in your presence, and we will read some of the highlights. But first, let me introduce some of the guests. News anchor, Henry. Henry, you want to make any comments like you always have in the past?
Well, I'm very proud and happy to have been invited here today because a very important part of my life has been with Channel 4, and it continues today on a radio spot on your dial 1200. Anything I'm doing today, I learned here.
Good, Henry. Henry?
I'll never forget Henry Garrow, one of the finest men I ever knew.
He never got here on time.
He always carried 4 or 5 paychecks around in his pocketbook. Our friends went to him and said, please cash them so we can balance the books. And I'll never forget Gaucho Half. We used to have lunch together, and Hugh Sr. and there's Hugh Jr. I remember when he came up with his sister, with Catherine, as a little tot. I'm glad to have been a news director, the first news director. I helped put this station on the air with news. Jim Gaines told me he wanted news on film in 6 weeks. God almighty, he put a load on my back. I was ordering moviolas and everything from all over the country. And I had 15 years of newspaper work before I came here. That's why you Senior hired me, because the FCC said radio stations were going to have to quit. Dealing only in international, national, and Texas news. There's going to have to be local news. And I originally came here 38 years ago as assistant and night city editor of the San Antonio Express. I went from here to news editor to El Paso, and the best newspaper I ever had job was during the war. I was a designer in the vernacular. It's slot man. I designed the Houston Post, and from there I came back to San Antonio.
Glad to have you, Henry. A real special guest of ours today is part of the family who started this whole thing, Hugh Half Jr. Hugh?
Ed, I can't help but say that maybe I've had a few regrets since I've sold the station. I've had a good time doing what I'm doing, but my heart will always be right here.
Bob Guthrie.
I'm a short timer. It was only 28 years ago when I came here.
I started him out in news.
This is the guy that brought me here.
You trained him badly, Henry.
You didn't know that. I was out at Fort Sam Houston in '55, and Dave Hubbard came out looking for voices to do Pearl Beer commercials, and he heard me announcing the recruiting show for the Army, and he said, come on with me, I'm going to give you a job, and he brought me down here to record a voiceover for Pearl Beer, And Bob Reed heard me, and he went and got Gaines, and he said, let's listen to this kid. I think we should hire him, and they did.
That's because you had young, sexy pipes at the time. Now they're old, sexy pipes. I got to add one note. Some of the people who are standing up look a little bit on the older side. That's because when they started here, they were old. Al Anderson, here's an anchor and a former news director who looks as young as he did back in those days. Al?
Thank you very much, Ed, and thank you for inviting me here today. This is delightful and fun. I'm reminded of a lot of stories, and the one that I think of immediately is when we told Hugh how we need a faster car. Henry remembers this one. And Hugh called the factory in Detroit somewhere and said, okay, send us the smallest Tempest with the biggest engine. And you want to ask Paul Schaefer about this because he refused to drive that car, so he can tell you about it.
Al, as most of you know, or maybe you don't, changed careers and is a big help to us. He's associate professor, Department of Journalism, UT in Austin, and head of the broadcast news. Here's an old-timer. He was old when he first came here, back in 1949. Justin Duncan. I got to tell you, before Duncan gets up, the younger people won't understand this, but this man got on the air every Sunday night at 10:15 to tell us how to change our knobs to get a good picture. Isn't that right, Justin?
Hugh Half, Hugh's father, brought me here 35 years ago. I have been here the whole time, 35 years. My first and main job, of course, was nothing on the air except in radio, so it was public relations, and I did the public relations. It kept me talking to every place in town that would have me. And I had lots of invitations to talk, so I talked. And when I couldn't get on television yet, I talked over radio. We used that. I want you to know one thing that was very important. In starting a station in those days, the public relations job was far more important than anything else. You had to make the people understand that they weren't going to get the world in a package all at once. And so I sold them on that idea. I got the distributors together and told them, don't you sell any sets until we get TV on the air. And they didn't. After I finished here, I put another station on the air. It didn't take long to do that job. And then I went to a section of the Air Force, finished the rest of my life traveling all over the world and most of the continents, and finally retired. And then I have had 15 years of retirement. Enjoyed every minute. I really owe a great thanks to the original WOAI for hiring me, because when I left college, I went east to work for a very big company so I could work my way back into smaller companies at a higher salary. And I wanted to come to the Southwest, so I realized my dream when I came here, and I've enjoyed it, and I've appreciated it, and I felt like I owe a lot to WAI-TV.
We owe it to you. This next lady she comes back like a bad penny every year. Millie Robinson, who did everything here, I think. That's what you keep telling me.
Apply for a job here, then all ladies wore hats and gloves. And as I had bought a $1.98 hat from Sybil's Hat Shop, some of you may remember it, and I was poor as I could be and still am. But as I crossed the bridge to apply for the job, the wind blew my hat off into the creek. Emily remembers it, and it drifted slowly down the river. So when I walked in, I told them they had to give me a job because I didn't have any hat, and I didn't have any money, and I was broke. And I stayed here until 11 years ago, and all of the dear friends that I made here, and I'm so glad to be back. And when they open this next capsule in 2009, I'll be right here.
We were number one in 1949 through 1957 because we were NBC, ABC, and Dumont. And we haven't been number one since. But we keep telling ourselves numbers don't count. It's a quality of people, and we have the quality of people now. We had them 35 years ago.
And you're coming back with Mark Tinker, though.
Yeah, we're number 2 in November sweeps. So before we leave, some of us, we might be number 1 again. But it doesn't really matter, because this station, back in the health tradition, established a principle of community involvement. And that tradition has stuck with us for 35 years, and I'm sure will for 35 more years. So numbers really don't count. And we're making money, we're having a lot of fun doing it. We have a few people we'd like to recognize on this occasion for having served with uninterrupted service for 25 years or more. And as I call their names, will they please come up? Jim Parrott, engineering, 27 years. Jim, congratulations. Let me read one plaque, then I'll read the rest of it. James Parrott, the other ones have different names on them, of course. In appreciation of 27 years of distinguished service with KMOL-TV, presented on December 11, 1984, our 35th anniversary year, 4984. Thanks for your help. Thank you. Xavier Vasquez. Xavier.
Thank you, sir.
32 years.
How about that?
Hey, you broke the damn thing.
Well, all I wanted to say was when I came in 1953, I had only been here about a month, and Mr. Cheviot said, now, you have to remember that the switchboard is an entry-level job. And if you do a good job at this, it will lead to bigger and better things. I was reminded of that when we started talking about this anniversary, and you don't remember this?
No, I don't remember.
About a month ago, I reminded him of our conversation, and he said...
What did he say?
He said, and it looked like this, he said, "Dear," you know, he talks funny like that. He said, "Dear, I don't like to make snap judgments."
Memory, I may not give this to you now. It was an entry-level job. She has progressed in 32 years. She started out as a telephone operator, chief PBX operator, chief PBX operator / receptionist. Today, she's a voice of KMOL. You can't go any higher than that. William Terry, 33 years. Bill? There he is. That's it. Gentlemen, lady, thank you very much for all your help.
Thank you.
It was 1922, and Gaucho Half, president of the Southern Equipment Company, thought he had just struck gold. He'd heard the future. It was radio. And he had just bought some 2,000 radios to sell in San Antonio. There was just one problem. There wasn't much to listen to. What did he do? The obvious. He built the biggest radio station in Southwest Texas, WOAI. By 1949, Gaucho's nephew, Hugh Half Sr., had taken over. Unlike his uncle, he now saw the future. It was television and time for San Antonio to have its first TV station. He brought in RCA engineers, built a 572-foot tower, installed a transmitter, and ran test patterns. Old Gaucho bet that he wouldn't break even in 10 years. It may have been the only bet he ever lost. On December 11th, 1949, WOAI-TV went on the air. And now, as KMOL-TV, we celebrate our 35th anniversary.